A new national poll found Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem with weak approval ratings as immigration raids expand. The numbers add pressure on the administration as court challenges and protests continue. The Justice Department is facing criticism after Epstein file releases exposed victim-identifying details while leaving questions about possible enablers. Lawmakers and advocates are demanding tighter redactions and fuller disclosure. The White House rolled out a prescription drug pricing plan branded Trump Rx, aiming to lower costs for common medications. Health policy analysts said the impact will depend on implementation rules and negotiations with manufacturers. President Trump said he wants talks with Russia on a new nuclear arms framework as key limits near expiration. Officials said no deal is close, but both sides signaled interest in further discussions. Federal officials made new immigration and budget announcements in a fast-moving White House briefing cycle on Wednesday. Agencies said additional enforcement actions and legal fights are expected in the coming days. New reporting shows President Trump personally asked Intelligence Chief Tulsi Gabbard to be present at the FBI's Georgia election-related search. The disclosure is fueling legal and political questions about executive involvement in investigative actions. A federal judge in Oregon barred immigration agents from making warrantless arrests in parts of the state. The order requires stronger legal justification before detentions and sets up a broader court fight. Trump's deportation push is reshaping suburban New York politics as both parties recalibrate messaging on enforcement and public safety. Local races are becoming early tests of voter reaction ahead of 2026. The White House said it could not guarantee ICE agents would stay away from polling places this November. The response came after calls from Trump allies to deploy immigration enforcement around election sites. New Jersey Democrats voted in a crowded special primary to replace Mickey Sherrill in the 11th District. The winner advances to an April special election against Republican Randolph Mayor Joe Hathaway. Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger ended State 287G, agreements that had partnered local officers with federal immigration enforcement. She said Virginia resources should focus on state public safety priorities, not federal civil immigration work. Virginia's redistricting dispute moved toward the state Supreme Court after lower court rulings split over map legality. The case could reshape district lines before the 2026 midterms, affecting both parties' House strategies. President Trump said the U.S. is in talks with Cuba's leadership after threatening measures that could tighten pressure on the island's oil supply. Cuban officials say sovereignty and sanctions relief remain central. The D.C. Council approved tax changes that adjust rates and brackets as the city confronts budget pressure. Officials said the package aims to stabilize revenue while limiting the hit on most residents. Trump administration signaled interest in renewed U.S.-Cuba talks while keeping pressure tools on the table. Cuban officials said sanctions relief and sovereignty issues remain central to any progress. Virginia's redistricting case is moving toward a high-stakes ruling that could reshape congressional maps before the midterms. State courts are weighing competing plans that could affect both parties' 2026 strategy. President Trump said he wants to pursue talks with Russia on a new nuclear arms framework as existing limits near expiration. U.S. officials said discussions are preliminary and no agreement is close. A CNN review said newly released Epstein files exposed victim-identifying details while leaving questions about possible enablers. The Justice Department said it is rechecking redactions as lawmakers demand fuller disclosure. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent clashed with Senator Elizabeth Warren in a tense Capitol Hill hearing over oversight and financial policy. The exchange signaled tougher scrutiny of the administration's economic agenda. Trump advisors are trying to center a public safety message in the administration's immigration push after recent backlash. The strategy reflects concern that aggressive enforcement images could hurt support in key swing areas. At the White House on Thursday, officials said immigration enforcement and DHS funding talks remained unresolved as Congress neared key deadlines. The briefing underscored continued legal battles over raids, detention standards, and federal authority. Trump's deportation push is reshaping suburban politics in New York as both parties adjust messaging on crime and immigration. Local races are becoming an early test of voter reaction ahead of 2026. A federal judge in Oregon barred immigration agents from making warrantless arrests in the state under the challenge policy. The order requires stronger legal grounds for detentions while the case moves forward.